Art is a challenging career choice. I think that anyone that attempts to do it or does it knows that. I think we're all still, no matter how successful we are, still attempting to do it. It was like every day just pushing that rock up the hill.
There's this great quote by Teddy Roosevelt: "For those who take the risk, go out in the arena." You've already won. You're playing.
I try to make mistakes. I think the mistakes are great. I think the mistakes are human. I think the more mistakes, the better.
For the people in the stands who are criticizing you, how can they possibly judge you if they're not going to get down on the sand with you? That's what art is. It's being brave. It's being honest.
It's a process. It's always a process. It's like the journey. And I think being someone who's truly creative and really loves what they do will never stop doing that.
At the end of the day, I do this because I fucking love it. I don't really see myself doing anything else. It was friends when I didn't have any. It's love when I couldn't find it. It's like everything.
God, I know. It's like breathing. It's like living to me. So I don't know what it would be like not to do it.
You just have to believe in what you're doing. And if you don't, you're in trouble.
I think John Van Hamersveld's legacy as an artist is as someone who was able to elevate design and illustration in popular culture.
For people who grew up in the 60s and 70s, if you grew up in a place that didn't have an art museum, then your only access to sort of that beautiful image, like a painting, was in the fold-out of a record album. For me, my parents' record collection was an art museum. A lot of those records were designed by John.
People really need to go look back on his body of work and look at it as a whole retrospective. It's a funny thing. John is an enigma.
John was involved with so many different subcultures, to move from surf culture to the car culture to the psychedelic culture to the rock culture.
I mean, a good image is a good image. It's always going to stick with you. We get so much information pushed at us.
Images are more abundant than ever. There's a tremendous amount of white noise, but it's more challenging than ever to make an image that rises above the white noise.
Where do you draw the line of what is iconic and what is not iconic?
His work, it froze. It's like frozen in a little time period, and you could always go back to it, and it still hits.
He is responsible for, I think, one of the most iconic images of the 20th century.
He captured the lifestyle. He captured exactly what surfing is all about.
Dance concerts at the Shrine Exposition Hall and the auditorium.
Jimi Hendrix and the Soft Machine, y'all. Man, what a show.
Chuck Berry was playing. Sly, Traffic was coming to town. You know, you showed up, what are you doing tonight? I'm hitchhiking to the Shrine.
John was steering that visual that was pinnacle.
If you think of like the flyers, I mean, everybody had those. People collected those.
Nobody was thinking of documenting any of this. It was too busy happening. John's posters and that's about it.
He saw it as an art happening. Surf, rock and roll, multimedia. He saw big picture stuff as he was hooking up all these things. Big impact on everybody.
And I happened to look up and I saw this billboard, a gigantic face with these beautiful black strokes. I saw it as graffiti. It first gave me the first concept that graffiti is artwork.
For John Van Hamersveld to not just have the Hendrix as what I would define as a perfect image, an image that represents a moment, is an icon, but to have also the Endless Summer, that's miraculous.
John's intelligence and how he fits into the conventional sphere, it's never worried him. I don't think he's troubled by being an artist and being of a different mind.
No, John, you know, dwells in a fucking another place.
You just knew that his impact on world culture was profound.
You have to risk all of the negative reaction to your willingness to create something that people are going to reject.
Somebody like that is always depressed, always elated because they skirt that edge at all times. He puts himself at that critical place. That's very, very bold. As long as I've known him, this has been the John I know.
To me, they are the folklore. Those are the central figures of the South Bay. They are the guys, you know. One morning, my father wakes me up and he says, we're going to order your board today. We have the money all together. And we end up driving along the coast there in the fog, right? And then you drop down through Playa del Rey and the Bologna Creek Bridge that you went over, and then drove through the really thick fog. And there was a real estate building that they used for the shop. We parked there. And all of a sudden, out of the fog comes this 34 Chevy truck with a deer strapped over the front of it. It comes to a halt, and Velzy jumps out, and then he opens the door, and we walk in, and there's all these boards on the fin at the bottom, and just a row of them like that. So he says, well, you're here to get a surfboard, huh? That's $75. So my father says, yeah, we agree to that. The shop is a place where, when the surf is down, the assembly of people, usually with a fire or a wall or something like that, it's a congregation of people who have stories to tell from the day before, legends or whatever. The shop was like that. You would have Mickey Munoz telling stories. You would have Dora there, going out the back door, setting off a rocket into the air, just crazy stuff. It was fanciful in there, and everyone had a nickname and some kind of lore behind them that they had established for themselves. Velzy would always call me Hammerhead. Well, you know, in the childhood experience of these two kind of like father figures at that point in time, they are the beginning of the contemporary folklore of surfing. They are the legends that created the youth sport of that time. So the Johnny face, which is a drawing that I created in 1969, and what that drawing meant is that I had gone through a metamorphosis, you know, from being a surfer, an art student, and then thrown into the entertainment world, and then into the hippie world. And in the darkness of the hippie world was an incredibly wild world where you didn't know what was going to happen from day to day. I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I said, this is the end. I can't do this anymore. So I went into the studio and I looked down at the paper and did this circle and did this face. The world has become more crazy than ever. So I say, crazy world, ain't it? I can't tell you what the future of the art school is going to be with this electronic world, and I can't tell you what the market's going to be like. Well, keep your head down, work hard on it. And that is really hard to do because you have so much congestion going on. And so what I used to say as a professor there, all these things are just symbols of an artistic found object. That's a found object within the memory cloud, we'll call it. And then you take that with materials and method into becoming a finite object. I think that's really what we're always dealing with. It's imagined. It's a crazy world, ain't it? That's the world we live in.